Hello.
Welcome to The Activity Continues. I'm Megan.
And this is Amy. Thanks for joining us tonight. Megan, what's new in your world?
Oh, geez, what isn't new? We're finally back to normal after we were quarantined for COVID. And let me tell you, being in the house with your toddler and trying to work is just the best.
I can't even imagine.
Oh, my God. He just wanted to be held all the time. And then when I put him in my lap, then he wants to play with the keyboard and play with the mouse and throw. His newest thing is throwing stuff. And before, when he would throw stuff, he would put his hand behind his head and then drop the thing. So when he would nothing was there.
Yeah.
And he's learned, so he can throw stuff now, and he's actually got a decent arm. I really think he's going to be left-handed though, because he throws left-handed.
Oh. All right.
Yeah. So I've been saying it ever since he started sucking his left hand, but his thumb on his left hand, but
nice.
Oh God, I don't think that's it. I mean, nothing. It's the we're in a panorama, so what do we do? We're in a panini.
Panini, yeah.
Yeah.
Panera.
What about you? What's new with you?
Not a ton. I have been watching, I just today finished the show on Netflix called Inventing Anna. And have you seen any previews for it or anything?
No.
It's a scripted, acted version of the story of this woman named Anna Delvey, who was basically a con artist. And she showed up in New York and told everybody that she was an heiress. She was a German heiress. And she was trying to get money for a project she wanted to do. She wanted to build a social club for artists. And so she was scamming all these banks to give her millions and millions of dollars. And
they're starving people, but those artists, they need a social club.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So, well, it was not only for artists, but for people that people that buy and sell art.
I'm sure it was just a funny thing to raise money for, is a social club for the artists.
Right. Yeah, no, Greg said the same thing when I told him I was watching it.
Yeah. Oh, man, poor artists.
Yeah. But it was really good, and the girl that plays Anna Delvey her name's Julia Garner, and she's in Ozark. Do you watch Ozark?
No, but I've heard so many good things about it.
I have too. I've only seen 2 episodes. I do need to get back to that. But
you love Jason Bateman, though, don't you?
I do love Jason Bateman. I do.
He's good. He's adorable.
I love Laura Linney. She's his wife in that. I love her too.
The only thing that I really recognize her from, or not recognize, but think of when I think of Laura Linney, is Mothman Prophecies.
Oh.
And that movie scared me.
I didn't even think I saw that.
Oh, it's got Richard Gere in it. Oh, it's a good movie.
I remember when it came out.
It's really good, but it kind of scared me.
Is it?
Yeah. But, I scare really easily. Up until 2 or 3, probably 2 years ago, I thought the Blair Witch was real. So
yeah.
What do I know?
That movie was scary. And that movie also was filmed so strangely with that handheld camera that I got really dizzy in the movie theater.
Sure.
I got nauseous almost.
Yeah.
And I had to stare off into the corner to realign my eyeballs or something. I was getting so thrown out of whack. But I still enjoyed it.
Yeah. Yeah. It was not good. I was scared.
Yeah.
Fun stories. So my best friend, when we've been friends since 4th grade, and for one of her birthday parties, they watched that movie. I did not. I sat up in the kitchen talking to her mom the entire movie. Yeah.
Oh,
because I'm I am not watching this. Speaking of watching, did you watch the show, The Concert at the Superb Owl?
I did.
Oh my God, I loved it.
It was fun.
My mom was so funny. She's like, those guys, they are too old to be grabbing their crotch. I'm like, Mom, these people are pioneers in the rap world.
Right.
That's what I mean. They're too old. Okay, Mom. I just loved except Kendrick Lamar. I wasn't a big fan of that one, but.
That was a cool, though, the dancing in the boxes and all that. That was cool.
I thought it was good.
Yeah, I'm too old to have, that was not the music that
Your
I
music,
listen to,
yeah.
I can appreciate it. And, like we've talked about Snoop Dogg before. He's, I like him.
I love him.
And I'd forgotten that Eminem was going to be on. And so I was just watching and then I hear the beginning of that song of his.
Yep.
And I was like, oh my God, I know this one. I know this song. So
yeah.
It was kind of fun.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was fun.
It was so good.
Remember how I said that I created the Patreon page, but I didn't have it go live because I was just goofing around with it? Well, it's live now.
Yay!
So if anybody wants to
bequeath,
patronize us on Patreon, patronize, whichever one doesn't mean make fun of.
Oh, I was going to say my husband patronizes me all day for free. So should I start charging?
That'll be $5.
That's an hour.
Yeah. So that's up if anybody wants to
yes,
to come over and join us there. You can follow us for free and you'll still get, I believe you still get emails every time I post something. It's just that you'd only be able to see the posts that are public.
Yeah.
And then if you are a paid patron, then you get to see more extra stuff, or you get the episodes early, as long as I get done with them early. And
You're a speed demon, though. Yeah.
Yeah, I usually do get done with them early.
If you're not done with them early, it's because I'm holding you up.
No, it's not. No. I did, the one that's coming out tomorrow, I did finish it last night, but when I was goofing around with it and I was trying to make the sound better, I had made too many changes because I was testing something. So I was like, oh, let's use this filter and this thing. And I was trying to make the sound better. And it wasn't better. And so you can go back and undo as many times as you want. And I did that, but then I started undoing stuff that I wanted to keep.
Oh, no.
And so I was like, no, okay. So I just closed it. And I was like, I'm going to close it and not save. And then every piece of fuckery that I've done with it in the last 25 minutes will just be erased and we'll be starting over from before I sat down, right?
What did you all delete?
Well, I closed it and then I was like, shit, what if I didn't save it before I started making all these dumb changes? So I sat there just like, because I couldn't stop it.
Right.
I had to just wait for it to finish cooking and deleting everything. But thank God I opened it back up and it was the way it was when I started. So I got so nervous. So I'm like, oh,
I'm
shit.
sure.
Because we went out last night with our next door neighbors.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, if this doesn't come back, I can't go out tonight. I have to finish this. So,
oh, how are they?
they're really nice.
Nice.
They're really cool. Yeah, we had a great time. They like watching TV too. So we exchanged a lot of TV
You should watch this. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Wow. It's a really hopping place. It's really crowded.
It's where the youths go?
I guess. I don't know. We were in a booth and the booth was like almost as big as my room. We were joking about how big it was. We were like, we could invite 10 more of our friends because there was only 4 of us and the booth was huge and tall backs and everything. So I couldn't see or hear anybody except us and the server. And then, the bar, we could see the bar, but the music was loud and I could hear that it was loud.
I'm so old that just sounds terrible.
Yeah, it was a little hard to hear talking, but it's okay. It was fun.
Yeah, that's good. That sounds like a good time. Yeah,
it was fun. Tonight, Megan is going first.
What?
Yay. And she'll be talking about the episode called Deadly Promise, which is season 8, episode 3. And that first aired on May 20th, 2017.
And Amy is covering season 11, episode 5, Lost Souls, which first aired August 7th of 2019. So buckle in, kids. This is a good one. It's emotional, though. It's very sweet. So it's called Deadly Promise, and it takes place in Chicago. So Steve starts talking with Chris, and before that, we see Steve driving in, and he said things are bad because the employees who aren't easily scared of anything are scared to be alone. And Steve said Chris promised his friend before he passed away that he would run the business and save it for his son. And so we get into that in a little bit more down the road. But so we start with Chris, who's the business owner. It's a tattoo parlor. And he says, his artists are seeing shadow figures. They're hearing girls screaming from the basement. Things are moving. He's owned the place for 10 years and he owns the entire building. It's 1,400 square feet per floor and there's 3 floors. So math is hard, but that's a lot of square feet.
That's a lot of square feet. Yep.
So they own the basement and then the main floor is the tattoo parlor and then the upstairs are living quarters. Mm-hmm. So it used to be a funeral home. And we'll talk about that a little bit more, but what's the other place that I did another place that was a funeral home too? So your theme is New York. My theme is funeral homes.
Yep. Funny.
So Chris and his 2 partners made a promise to their best friend Richie, passed away in his sleep at 37. And Steve goes, now, I got to ask, was there drugs involved? Was it a drug overdose? And he's like, no, it wasn't an overdose or anything. He didn't say, are you boozing? But he should have. The autopsy report said a heart attack, and you'll want to remember that because that'll come into play. At 37.
37?
That'll come into play later. Yeah.
Okay.
So Chris was talking about him, and he said he was super friendly, a heart of gold. He didn't say he lit up a room, but I don't think they say that about men a lot.
Yeah,
and
no,
he wasn't
not usually.
Murdered. So
yeah.
He said 3,000 people attended his wake and his funeral.
Jeez.
And so Chris and his friends promised Richie's son Odin, love that name, and his wife, that they would run the business for them. And then when Odin came of age at 18, they'd offer the business to him and he could then kind of carry on his father's business.
Yep.
But the reason he called him is he wants to make sure that this is a safe environment for him. Talked about Richie experiencing things. Richie met a person named Walter, and he got pushed down the stairs by this apparition. He fell all the way down the stairs, and they were like stairs with like metal accents in them.
Okay.
And so he fell all the way down these stairs.
So wait, was Walter a ghost?
Yeah, Walter was an apparition, and Richie was alive when this happened.
How did he know his name?
He said his name. He said, my name's Walter. What are you doing here?
Oh.
And then pushed him down the stairs.
Okay. I'm Walter. I will be pushing you down the stairs today.
Hi, I am Walter. Welcome to this tour. In 3 seconds, you will go down the stairs. Keep hands and arms inside the carpet. Just kidding. I'm drinking water. I'm very dehydrated.
I'm drinking water too.
Mostly because I'm out of alcohol.
Oh, yeah, I'm out of I have a lot of wine, but I don't have other good stuff.
I really wanted to get that Rebel coffee again. Oh,
I want to get that too. You know what? They have it. You can get it here.
Where?
At Total Wine.
Gotta go. All right. Note to self, get that tomorrow. So he said it was a miracle that Richie didn't die from falling down these stairs. He just had minor injuries. So then Chris was talking about how he's got his tattoo station, and behind his tattoo station, he had a mask that was hanging on the wall and it kept falling down. He said it fell down and hit him in the head, fell down and broke the keyboard. And, Steve, he's like, well, is there an angle? Is there, anything that would cause this mask to fall down? And of course, Chris is like, nope, I think it's spirits. And he said, the other night he was doing some work and he felt like something was watching him. And he said a lot of artists have felt that too. So he had the feeling in the pit of his stomach that something wasn't right and he just left. He's like, nope, I'm done. I'm leaving here. So he just locked up and left. He feels like Richie is there, still around. So then they talk about to Nick, who's Chris's business partner. So both of them own this tattoo parlor, and they both knew Richie. They were really good friends with Richie. He said this place was their home. It was home for lots of people. So it was kind of a refuge for people to come to. And he doesn't like being there alone, both due to the paranormal stuff and what happened to Richie, because Richie died there. He died upstairs.
Oh.
Yeah, and Nick lived there for 6.5 years as well. And while he was living there, he had complications medically. He went to a doctor, they performed an EKG, and found out that he had suffered a small heart attack he didn't even know about. And he was 49 when it happens. And so keep in mind the age of all these people, because that's going to come back in the reveal. It gets, it's relevant.
Okay.
So some of the experiences that he had when he was sleeping, there was a door that was closing back and forth and slamming shut and opening and over again.
Jeez.
And Steve's like, well, could have been in the wind.
I was just going to say, you can't blame the wind when it's opening and closing.
And he said, no, it's too heavy to have been the wind.
Yeah.
He saw shadows when he was in the bathroom, when he was in the bedroom. And he said Richie told him he had experiences as well. So then we move on to Neil, and he's a tattoo artist that works there as well. He's worked there for about 4 years, and he talks about the basement. He said most of the sightings happen downstairs. One of the things that he says that's really common is you hear banging, like somebody's walking around downstairs. And so Steve is like, do you have a rodent problem?
They're really big rats.
They're like New York sized rats. Just kidding. I don't know the rats in New York, but I've heard they're rather large.
Tell,
Heard tell. That's good. So he says it sounds like somebody is punching the ceiling under your feet. Like that's how loud it is. And so late night when he's coming up from the basement, like doing stuff down there, he'll see the shadow of a man. And he said it feels like it's looking back at you as well. And he said it's not really black. He said it's more of a void. Like there's just nothing there.
What?
Yeah, no,
That's
thank
bizarre.
you. And he says a lot of people have claimed that they've either been groped or pushed in the basement. Right. And he said you can feel it on your shoulders the more you go into the basement. It feels like someone is pressing your shoulders down.
Heaviness.
Yeah, like just a weight on your shoulders. Ugh. And so, Ben, that it's the funeral home, there's been like more than 1,000 corpses have been in that building because it was a funeral home for so long. And so then we get into Steve's research. And so he talks to Michael Clement, who was a member of the family that owned the funeral parlor. His grandfather, Johnny, actually opened it in 1922, and it was a funeral parlor until 2001. So this thing was a funeral parlor for a long time.
Yeah.
They talk about Johnny, about he was artistic. He was a painter. His grandson is saying this, Michael, but he said he was also tough. Like, you do it his way because his way is the right way, his way or no way. So here's where we talk about a tragedy. This family had so many tragedies. They lost 3. I'm not laughing at the tragedy. I'm laughing because in the reveal, when Steve's talking about it, he goes, they lost 3 people under the age of 50.
3.
Yeah, 3.
3 people.
3 people. So
we had 3 people in the last episode.
We had paper people in the trees. So 3 people. Yes. So his grandma Anna passed away when she was 45 in 1938. She suffered an acute thyroid condition that inflamed her heart. Ew. And she was dead within a week. She died in the building. Michael's father, so Johnny's son, suffered 2 heart attacks, and the third one was fatal. Died in the bathroom of the funeral home. He was 41 when he died. Okay. And then Michael's brother, so Johnny's grandson, passed away at 28, at the age of 28 of a heart condition. Jeez. So heart attack. So the grandfather actually died at 86. He was in a nursing home. And so he died at 86. So then they were talking about the funeral home setup. And he said the first floor was geared for funeral business, like wakes, ceremonies, everything like that. And then the basement was strictly for embalming. And he said there had to have been thousands of bodies through the house, which makes sense. If you're a funeral home for 80 plus years, that's a lot of. Yeah. So then in the 80s, a gentleman was attending his brother's wake. So we talked to Virginia, whose husband had died. So her husband was Edwin. They were married in May of 1961. They moved next door to the funeral home, lived there for 30 years. Edwin passed of a heart attack at 54. So this is where it gets a little sad. They were going to celebrate their 25th anniversary. The wedding or the party invitations had all been sent out. And it ended up turning into a wake and not an anniversary. So then Walter, Edwin's brother, was there, and he came to the wake. It was really crowded. There was a lot of people there. He had a heart attack there and died
God.
at 63. Yeah. So at this point, Steve is like, okay, 4 people have died of a heart attack. 2 others have had heart-related conditions. The current owner had a minor heart attack. Like, holy cow. So Steve is like, I want to know if this was anything else other than a funeral home. So he talks to a genealogist, not a gynecologist. Her name is Jeanne. Jeannie? Jeanne. What the hell? It's Jeannie.
Okay.
Lord. And so Ann Noble, so when Steve was doing his research, he found Ann Noble, and she died of either a murder or suicide. So when he talks to Jean Bloom, however you say her name, I don't know, I'm sorry, Miss Bloom, that I'm massacring your name. I don't know why I'm struggling with it. So Anne was married to Major Noble. He was 22 and he emigrated to the United States from England, settled in Chicago with his wife Anne and 2 kids. Anne, in 1845, she was found dead in her bed, with a cloth tied around her neck.
What?
So, yeah. So the coroner said it was death by strangulation, either by herself or an unknown person. The case remains unsolved to this day. Steve said, I'm going with a homicide. I've never seen anybody strangle themselves to death in a bed.
No, I don't think you could.
How could you?
You have to hold on for a really long time to strangle somebody. It's not like in the movies where they do it, like grab their neck and they're dead.
Because that's just when they're unconscious, everybody.
Yeah. You can't strangle yourself because you'd pass out before you are dead, and you wouldn't still be able to hold the thing. Yeah. Yep. I don't think you can strangle yourself. I mean, you can hang, but you can't.
But she was found in her bed. So, like, there's no way she could have hung herself, died, untied herself, then laid herself. Yeah.
My story has something like this, too.
So then we get to Amy and her arrival, and she said she's nervous right away because a man stepped forward and she thinks he's an issue. He said, quote,
twists and turns, would hate for anyone to learn the truth of the matter here.
So not a good situation.
Okay.
She said she started in the basement. She said there's a lot of lonely, sad, depressed people here. In life, they look dressed up. They're all in their late 30s, early 40s. And then she says there's a male who had a heart attack here, and he died. And then the dead people downstairs said, we claimed him. And then because we can't leave, he can't either. No, it's not good.
Nice.
She says the stairs is not a good area leading from the basement up. She said there's a guy in that area who is pacing and upset. And she said he keeps flashing, going back between appearing to be 70 and appearing to be 30, like going back and forth in his appearance. So she said she saw him caressing women, and kind of in an uncomfortable way, to the point where she was like, is this okay? Like, is this consensual? She said he doesn't like males. There a lot more physical stuff happens to males. He's kind of torturing them or, assaulting them physically. She said there's something darker here than the old man. She said something weird, like a weird cat thing is what she calls it. She says it's bad.
Cat thing?
Cat. Yeah. Meow. Cat. So she said with the cat thing, the living would hear scratching. They would also hear screaming and growls like from a cat. She said she's calling it a cat because of the way it sounds and the scratching noises it makes, but she said she thinks it used to be human.
Oh.
Yeah. And she said people would see a little black shadowy blob if they saw the cat thing. They wouldn't see a cat.
Huh.
She said the effect on people it has is it influences them to act out. She said people would act like a lunatic. Her words. She says it's bad. She sees a group of dead people. They're upset. They're crying. They can't get out. They're confused. She said the living would see these dead people. They might see them walking in and out of the walls. She said people would feel them bumping into each other.
Oh, jeez.
So, yeah, it kind of makes you think of the basement when Neil was talking about you would feel things on your shoulders.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So she said she's really worried about the living people being in the basement for too long and being exposed. She said that the ghosts are depressed and they're very sad, and they might cause the living people to be depressed, might cause the living people to become suicidal just because of how they feel.
Sure.
The spirits have gotten demented and angry, she said, just from being down there too long. So she said the old young man, she keeps calling him, and the cat thing are keeping the dead people trapped in the basement. And the dead people then, so the old man and the cat are keeping the dead people trapped. And in revenge, the dead people are trapping newly dead souls. They're collecting them for revenge. She said she sees a dead girl trapped in a room. She said she's in her 20s. She doesn't know if she killed herself or if someone killed her. Amy said she killed herself, but I don't know if that's the same person. But if it is, it can't be, because how would she have killed herself that way? We just discussed it, Amy. So she said,
well, I don't go out there because have you seen it? It's terrifying. And that's in reference to the dead people being trapped here.
And she doesn't want to get put in the basement because that's kind of where the people get trapped, is in the basement.
Yeah.
So now we go to the reveal. So Neil and Chris. So Chris is the owner, and then Neil is the tattoo artist. And so they're at the reveal. And so Steve mentions the promise, but doesn't say anything else. He just says, Chris made a promise to a friend, and that's all I'm going to say. And so Amy started talking about upstairs in the room. She saw a black mass. She says it was kind of fuzzy. She said that's not good. She said it affects the living. You would feel like you're being watched. And she said all around the place you'd hear scratching noises and growling like a cat. And here's where she said again, the entity at one point was human and would have been on the premises, pre-1940s. And she said he was a bad man. And so that's when Chris said, the other night he had stuff to do and he felt something staring at him from behind. Neil says he'll stay late and you can feel someone looking at you and you turn around and there's nothing there.
No, thank you.
Yeah, it's like the one in your story where she had the art room. Or wait, was that my story? No, that was your story.
That was your story.
That was my story. Yeah.
I think it was your story.
Yeah, it was. And she felt like she was being watched.
Because isn't that where Amy told her to bring Big J with her when she told him to go away?
Oh my God.
Yeah, that was your story.
Thank you. I'm smart in other ways, Amy. So then also Neil said, here's where you would hear, sounds like someone is punching the floor under his feet. And he said he has customers ask what the noise is. And he just said, you tell him it's the ghost.
And I've gone down there. There's nothing there. I've had customers even ask me, what's that noise? And then basically you just tell them it's the ghost.
And so she was talking about the people in the basement, and she said she encountered a lot of dead people. They're sad, they're depressed, and they're getting angry because they're trapped. Mm-hmm. And so that's when Steve talked about the funeral home, and he spoke to a family member who worked there for 25 years. That was Michael, who talked about his grandfather and grandmother and everybody.
It gets worse. In 1986, they were holding a funeral for a dead guy named Edwin Kudecki. He died from, of course, a heart attack. Edwin's brother, Walter, came here to do visitation with his brother at the wake and had a heart attack right here.
I hope you're ready for this. Okay. One day, Richie came down to the front steps, got into an argument with an apparition. The apparition tells him, my name's Walter. What are you doing here? Richie gets pushed, goes head over heels down those 15 to 20 metal steps.
Oh my God.
And he landed on the ending.
And everything happened there. Embalming, wakes, funerals, all of that. And so she said the dead people do things to the living. If the living spent a lot of time downstairs, they would start to feel depressed and possibly suicidal. Then she said, people would feel like they're being bumped into. And that's where Neil talks about, again, feeling the pressure on your shoulders. Chris says everybody runs up the stairs. He said nobody likes being down in the basement. Yeah. And so Chris says he's seen a shadow figure every now and then. But Neil sees it all the time, 4 or 5 times a week. He'll see a shadow figure. And then he said, wouldn't even call it black. Like I said, he calls it a void. It's just empty. And so Amy said the dead downstairs feel trapped. And they say, quote, if we're stuck here, y'all are going to be too. So that's kind of their mentality. And so she said anybody who died there would become trapped. And then she said she encountered a male who died of a heart attack. And he was the dead's first victim. And they're holding him here just as they've been held there. And that's the picture that I sent you, the first one, or the only.
Okay, so let me look at these again.
They only showed the one, and they showed it first.
So the first one I think you sent me is the where a guy's just laying down.
That's a close-up, yeah. So the second one I sent you is the entire picture.
The
whole
see.
sketch.
Yeah.
Yep. And
it
then
looks like the basement, right?
Yep,
because
that's
I
the
see stairs
basement.
going up.
Yep.
And a bunch of people dressed in, like, looks like nice clothes.
Yep.
All standing around chit-chatting. And then
And
there's the dead person on the floor.
And that's the dead guy. That's the dead guy who the first one they're holding. And so Steve asked Amy, any idea when this guy had a heart attack? And she said in the last 20 years.
Okay.
That's when Steve talks about Richie, who died at 37. Chris says he went to sleep and didn't wake up and had a mild heart attack. And then Chris talks about the promise. And then, so Steve said, do you think this guy is Richie? And she said, it probably is Richie. Yeah.
Wow.
So then they talk about the history, and I even wrote down 3 family members under the age of 50, all heart attacks. So those 3 family members. And then you had Nick, the business owner who had that mild heart attack at 49. Then you had Richie, 37. You had Edwin. You had Walter, who Edwin lived next to the funeral home. And so she thinks that person that she's concerned about is the old young man that she encountered. And she said women would feel like they're being caressed, but not like a nice caress. And Neil said, would that be more like a grope? And she said, yep. And she said things that she saw him doing to women in life made him wonder if it was consensual. And so Steve said, well, he was, and they had a picture of him. And did I send that to you? No, I didn't. I'll send you that picture.
Okay. Just describe it then.
It's just an older gentleman in like a 40s attire with a top hat, short coat, one of those short waist coats with the, so just sitting on a bar stool looking really jovial. And so Steve wondered if Amy could have interpreted the things he was doing to the women as embalming rather than assaulting them.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, because all the embalming went on down there.
Yeah.
And she said, maybe. She said it's possible.
Okay.
And so she said the guy, the older gentleman, and the fuzzy cat thing are the biggest concern. She said they're the ones causing the heart attacks.
Okay.
So they're the ones, that's a lot of heart attacks in a very short period of time.
Yeah.
She said, like I said, the dead people are becoming spiteful. And she said, this is not a good place. She said, it will get worse and worse and worse. And she said, one of you will have a heart attack.
Oh, jeez.
And she said, you're also putting the son in harm's way as well.
Uh-huh.
And so they're like, well, what do we do? And so she said, you need to release all of the deceased. And so what you want to do is find a priest who's going to do an exorcism. Now, this was really interesting to me. She said, you'll give him the keys to the place, shut it down for 72 hours, and nobody with any ties to Richie can be in this building when he's performing the exorcism. Because Richie needs to make that decision on whether or not he wants to leave. Because right now, there's so many people with ties to him that he might choose to stay, or he might want to stay.
Yep.
If he sees his son, his wife, his 2 friends, anything like that. And so that can inadvertently trap him here. And so Chris is really struggling with this, which I understand. Like, he lost his best friend.
Yeah.
It's tough, but at the same time, Steve is like, you need to do what's best for your friend. And so Chris says he'll do that. He'll work on his own emotional, mental stuff of letting Richie go. But in the end, he said he does want to do what's best for him. So then the summer up says Chris is searching for a priest to perform an exorcism, and the activity continues.
Oh, so they haven't done anything as
of
the
2017.
Update.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, this is why we need updates.
Yes.
Like real updates now.
Yes.
Because I want to know if the tattoo parlor is still there.
Because when this episode aired, the son was 14, and that was in 2017. So he'll be 18 now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was my case. I thought it was really neat.
Yeah, that's a good one. All right. So this one takes place in New London, Wisconsin, which is about an hour outside of Green Bay. The client is Charlotte. She's a mom with 9 children.
Oof, Marone.
Yeah.
What?
And she bought an old nursing home because it was the only property large enough for her 9 children.
9.
9. So 3 of these kids are grown and they don't live there anymore. So really, that's only 6. I'm confused about her
Situation?
her thought process.
Oh, okay.
But I'll get to that in a sec. Okay, so maybe the 3 grown kids visit a lot or something. I don't know, but 3 of them have moved out. She mentions that she has a husband. His name is Jason, but he doesn't believe that anything is going on in the house, and he thinks that she's crazy.
Love that support.
Yep. So when I first heard that, I was like, ooh, we need to do an episode where the theme is the reluctant husband, because there's a lot of these where the husband thinks that the wife is crazy. And then when Steve interviews him, the guy will be like, well, yeah, I see a shadow figure.
I didn't think it was real.
And you don't think there's anything here?
Right.
I mean, come on. So, yeah. So I texted Megan and I'm like, we need to do a reluctant husband episode. And then by the time I got to the end of this, I changed my mind about this one being included in that. And I'll tell you why later. But anyway, so, I guess I'll tell you now. So this Jason was so reluctant that he was never even a part of the episode. Steve didn't talk to him. He wasn't at the reveal. Never saw his face. Nothing. It's like he didn't exist.
Right.
So he's very reluctant. He wasn't even on camera.
Very reluctant.
Very reluctant. So someday we will do that as a theme, but not today. So then Matt notes that the property is massive, and it is. It's a huge old stone building.
But if you buy an old nursing home, you're gonna get ghosts.
Yeah, wouldn't you think?
Yeah.
So he notes that the property is so big, and I thought, well, at least you're not the only one clearing it yourself. Because remember in the last thing we learned that there's a whole production crew that goes in there and helps him clear the place.
I know. Thank God. Can you imagine?
I know.
That would take weeks.
He'd still be there.
Yeah, he would. Legend has it he's still clearing the stuff away.
He's still drapery over the painting. So the first thing Amy says when she gets there is, there are so many dead here, and it's extremely loud. So then Steve is talking to Charlotte, and he's trying to figure out what's going on. And she says that the activity is destroying her life, her marriage, and it's affecting her 1 billion children. She says she is struggling, and all I can think of is, because you have 9 children.
Yeah. You have a literal soccer team that you birthed.
Yeah. And it's possible that she didn't give birth to all these kids. They might have been adopted, because there's like 4 littles that all look like they're about the same age. They could be a year apart. I don't know. But like her oldest kid's got to be like 25 or 30. And then she's got these other ones that they look to be about 7.
No thanks. And to be clear, like, we're not bashing her for having all these kids. Like,
no.
We're just in awe that somebody could have 9 children.
I can't even have 1, so there's no way. I mean,
I barely have 1.
I knew I wouldn't even be able to handle 1. There's no way I could handle 9. So Steve asks her why she chose a nursing home, and she says that she fell in love with it the second she saw it, and she knew that it would be enough space for her very large family.
I would hope so.
And I'm looking at this place, and I'm like, does every one of your kid need like 4 bedrooms? Because
well, you've got your sleeping room and your changing room and your drawing room.
Yeah. I mean, and it's not like a fancy place. It's, So I looked into this place. I Googled it and I looked into it. And when it was a nursing home in the 70s, which we'll get to all that, but it had 40 residents and 42 staff. So this is a big place.
Holy
cow. I'm just wondering why this family needs room for 40 people.
Yeah.
When there's only 9 of them, or 9 plus 2 parents. And then, so She talks about what she's feeling, and she says she's feeling watched. There are objects thrown. She's being touched. Her health is failing. She's hearing voices. They're seeing shadow figures. And everybody is affected by the mood swings, but mostly her husband, Jason.
Who doesn't believe it.
Who doesn't believe in any of it. And the way she phrases it made me laugh. And I'm going to put the sound clip in because she says,
But my husband, Jason, is the absolute worst.
Mine is too, and he's not even affected. Just kidding. Just kidding.
yeah, so he's in denial, she says.
Yeah, denial. It's not just a river in Egypt.
Steve asks if she knows why there's all this activity, and she says that it was a haunted house at one time. And she shows Steve pictures that were taken when it was a haunted house. And it's just like dark and spray painted with like fluorescent paint. And it just looks like, like there's a big sign that says in spray paint says morgue, and it's with an arrow pointing.
Yeah.
So, I'll put all those pictures up. I did take a picture of the TV screen when they were up.
I like
so
how you said picture with the
picture. Like I took a picture with an Instamatic camera.
Yeah, like one of those windy ones, like
with the flash bulb on top.
Yep. Children, what we're talking about is it's a square camera.
Back in the old days.
Before these phones, we used to have to wait for our pictures. We couldn't tell if it was a good one or not.
That's right. Oh my God. I remember going on a trip or something and taking 1,000 pictures and then bringing them to what was that, 1 hour photo place?
1 hour photo, yep.
Yeah, but it was called something else. It was called, started with a P. ProX.
Oh,
it's called ProX. And that was the expensive stuff. When you couldn't wait any longer than an hour, you went to ProX and then they got it for you in an hour. But that was the longest hour of my life waiting for those photos to be developed. Yep. Oh, I couldn't wait to see what I got. Oh, the good old days.
Yep.
So she mentions that her oldest kid and his friends did use a Ouija board there. And they had some kind of a seance or something, and something scary happened. She gets more into this later.
No shit.
I know. What is wrong with people?
Stop. Oh, I can't. You guys, just don't use a Ouija board. Duh. That should have been the name of our podcast, is Don't Use a Ouija Board.
Yeah. Ouija boards are bad.
Mm-hmm.
So Amy feels sick. She says sick. Something is coming at her and trying to push her back, saying, get out of here. We don't want you here.
Back. Get out of here. Get out of here. We don't want you here.
Amy is so brave. I would be
know.
like, okay, bye.
Yeah. I do what you say.
There'd be a Megan-shaped hole in the wall. I'd be like, okay.
She says there's too many dead people. She even guesses that somebody had used a Ouija board. And she said it wasn't done with good intentions. And that's why there are so many people.
I want to know, what is too many dead people? Like, when do we cross the threshold?
What's the threshold? Yeah.
Of like
I don't know.
a normal amount of dead people, and then there's is it like more than 10? Too many? Like more than, I imagine
it would vary person by person.
Yeah. But like, I would think, would she count like would she count guides as dead people?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. But good ones.
Yeah.
I mean, they're the good dead people.
And
she wasn't saying all these were bad. There's just a lot of dead people.
Yeah.
There.
Too many.
So Steve's talking to Charlotte again, and she explains that there is a lot of activity in the upper floors of the home, 2 upper floors. Mm-hmm. And Steve says, you got a lot of kids. Could it be them?
Oh, Steve.
They're just running rampant.
They're the rodents and the kids. That's what you got.
And she says no, because she doesn't allow them up on the upper floors. So here I am going, hold a second. First of all, since when do kids listen when they're told not to go to those floors?
Right.
And secondly, why do you have a nursing home sized house if you're not using half of it?
Yes. What is this woman doing?
I don't understand.
Charlotte, call us and tell us your. That is, yeah.
Yeah. So they go up to the second floor, and there
Rodents?
in their winter coats now. She and
Okay.
Steve are both in their winter coats, and he notes it's freezing up here.
Right.
And it's winter in Wisconsin.
Burr.
And she's got parts of her house that aren't heated.
Well,
I don't know if
she
there's,
can't.
like-
I mean, can you imagine the heating bill?
Oh, I can't imagine. No.
That would be, oh my God, that would be astronomical.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know how many square feet it is. I looked up the property and I found it on like Zillow, but it doesn't have the square footage.
Does it have the cost?
Yeah, I'll tell you that
Okay.
later. So anyway, I'm thinking, what's happening with the pipes? You can't let a house, like half your
Yeah.
house, be frozen like that. Your pipes are going to freeze. Yep. Anyway, she explains that they haven't been able to finish it because of the activity. They get headaches, nausea, dizzy spells. So my other question would be, why can't husband who doesn't think anything's wrong with the house,
Yeah.
what's his excuse? Anyway, she's had her hair pulled. She's seen shadow figures. She says you can see through it, the shadow.
Yeah.
And she sees them almost every time she goes up there. She's also seen a man who has morphed into a monster.
No, thank you.
Yep.
Goodbye.
Bye.
I will be for sale sign in the window.
I know. So she said he's an older 60s to 70s man, white. He had some hair. I'm going by what she said because her descriptions were hilarious. Steve asked her to describe it, the monster, and she says, it's a creature. It's evil.
Great description.
Which is not a description.
No, it's not a description at all.
No. And I was starting not to believe her because she didn't seem to have much to say in the way of describing anything. She
Some
was
hair.
like, a monster,
You know, Steve, come on.
Come on, work with
He's
me.
got tree eyes.
Yeah. So she hears voices. She hears men and women talking to the people, the living people. She said none of it seems aggressive, but it's still scary.
Yes, I agree.
Mm-hmm. Now we go back to Amy, who she says, there's a woman. She sees a woman here, and she goes, she's got issues. She's a mess. She thinks that people would hear her crying, this woman. She thinks the living people might think it's children, but it's this lady. She's angry, and she doesn't know why she's here. Then Amy sees a guy with a clipboard and says, he says it's his space. Space belongs to him.
Yeah.
Matt asks if the living would see him, and she goes, yeah.
Come on, Matthew.
Found funny.
Would the living have any experiences with him?
Yeah.
He makes them feel dizzy and nauseous, aches and pains. So that's what she's seeing upstairs or experiencing upstairs. This clipboard man says that people have it all wrong, that basically this is hell. And Amy says she doesn't feel good. And that's the end of her not the end of her walk, but that's the
scene.
segment.
And scene.
So then Steve is talking to one of the older daughters who moved out. Her name's Haley.
One of the herd.
Yeah.
I couldn't think of a
soccer
word.
Team.
Yeah.
So she says that her dad has been really horrible to everyone. She agrees that their dad is being affected. She said the reason she moved out is that she woke up one night to a shadow figure. Steve asked her to describe it, and she has the same descriptive skills as her mother. And she says, just a shadow figure of a person.
In her defense, though, I mean, a shadow figure, that is, I mean, how much more descriptive do you get, Steve?
Yeah.
A shadow.
I just thought it was funny that she said the exact same words that she said when she just, yeah.
A shadow figure.
Yeah.
You know, a monster.
Yeah, Oh, he asked her if she's ever had experiences elsewhere. And she said in her old house, she had an experience where something ran across her bed. She was laying in bed and something ran across her bed.
No thanks.
So it's not just this
Yeah.
house. I think she's just sensitive, So
Yeah. I will say, I feel things on my bed all the time.
Really?
All the time. I'll feel things walk on my bed.
Ugh.
All constantly.
I do too, but it's dogs.
Yeah, it's not, because I'll look and see, I mean, we don't have dogs, but it's not the cats. Like, I'll look and see and there's no
Nothing.
cats. Nothing. And it feels light like a cat, too.
Yeah.
Like, it's not heavy.
Uh-huh. Maybe you have cat ghosts.
I hope I do. I hope my one cat is a ghost.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've that's just normal to me now to feel that. Like, that doesn't even scare me anymore.
So weird.
Yeah,
I suppose, once you desensitize yourself to it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
The daughter says she feels really uncomfortable in this house, and Steve notices and says, "Are you okay? Do you feel uncomfortable?" And she's like, "I really do." And she goes, "Maybe we should just sell the place."
Yeah.
So then Amy is talking about the clipboard guy again. She said that he told her that there is a devil here who controls everything and everybody, all the dead. She describes him as saying that he has goat legs. This devil thing.
No.
Uh-huh.
Goodbye.
And the dead people, when they stumble into a living person, they become attached to them, and then the living person basically becomes them. So kind of like a possession, I guess, like being jumped, but like permanently. So Steve talks to the kids, not all of them, but a few of the older ones, and then one of the little girls, but they don't name any of them.
Yeah, yeah.
Then he talks to Nicole, who is Charlotte's best friend, and she's experienced a lot of stuff in this house. She said there was a time where the whole house shook, and she was looking all over trying to figure out what it was. Like, it wasn't pipes, it wasn't a earthquake. I don't know. They have earthquakes in Wisconsin. I know we don't have them here, so
no,
probably not. And then she also saw a little boy apparition once.
No, thank you.
And she's very worried about Charlotte and the kids. Not Jason, though. He can suck it.
Yeah. Fuck off, Jason. Real quick sidebar.
Yeah.
When I lived in the Middle East, there was an earthquake. It was far away, but I felt the shocks of it so much that my bed moved. And this was the night after I had the scariest dream I've ever had in my life.
Oh, no.
And I still remember, I slept with the lights on for like a week.
Oh, my God.
After I had this dream. There was apparitions in it. There was a black mass that came at me and told me to get out. This was my house. Get out.
Oh, my God.
Like, it was terrifying. And the next night, my bed moves.
No.
I shit. I didn't sleep for a week. I'm telling you.
Bet.
And then I found out it was an earthquake, but I was convinced that this demon spirit that had attacked me in my dream was now and this bed was heavy, like made of solid, like oak. Like, this was not a cheap IKEA bed.
Yeah.
So speaking of earthquakes, that made me think of that. But yeah, the house shaking, goodbye.
Yeah. Yeah, so then they cut to Amy, and she says,
I'm just in shock that people actually live here. This is bad. It's not a good space.
Same, Amy. Same.
She said there are dead people that the darkness has collected, and it's like a purgatory.
I don't like that saying.
She said it can travel now. It's gained energy. It's gained whatever. It's leveled up. So it can go anywhere, inside, outside the house, anywhere. Now we're going to go to Steve, who is in the car, but I don't think it's a Cadillac this time.
Oh,
this is where we get the
Steve.
ring shot.
Yep.
So he says that he found out from a researcher that everybody who has owned this property has had terrible luck. So he's meeting with the researcher. Her name is Carrie Dreffel. I might be saying that wrong, and they never said her name out loud. The original plan for this building was that it was supposed to be a hospital. Started being built in 1931. Then they ran out of money, and it sat vacant for 15 years. So at that time, this would have been in the 40s.
Like World War II era.
Yeah, it was filled with squatters, vandals. People would break in because they had heard it was haunted. So there was already some shit going down before it even opened up as anything. In 1947, the county bought it and turned it into a nursing home in 1950. So poor living conditions, abuse scandals, mismanagement of the property, all of that had it shut down in 1962.
Oh, wow.
And it was sold to a charity of nuns. It was a nursing home.
Yeah.
They had it inspected in 1971, and it was not up to code, and so it was shut down.
Okay.
So then this lady produces a list of all the people who died in the nursing home, and it's over 100 people.
Jeez.
And I know people die in nursing homes.
I mean, it's going to be a high number.
Where you go to die.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I did a little research of my own, and it was sold in 2012 for $10,000. This enormous place, $10,000. The last sale before that was like $250.
That's sketch.
Yeah. Zillow estimates it at $166 today, but it doesn't show any bedrooms or bathrooms.
It?
Yep. So I think that it's probably been labeled unlivable or something, you know.
Yeah, and maybe it's like a short sale or a foreclosure or something,
Yeah.
or you buy it with the caveat that you have to tear it down.
Yeah. Well, it's not for sale right now. So
Oh, well,
somebody,
if it is.
whoever bought it for $10,000 owns it now. I did not dig that far.
I wonder if that was Charlotte who bought it.
Well, in 2012, it must have been. Because this came out in 2016 and it still hasn't sold yet.
Yours came out in 2019.
Was it 19?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Your episode, yeah.
Yep, you're right. You're right. So
it had to have been Charlotte.
But I thought she had just moved in when they filmed it. I thought she had moved in just recently. Maybe not. Maybe she'd been there a long time.
Or maybe Zillow just didn't update it.
Well, but those come from the sell amounts and dates come from the county, I think.
Oh, really? Oh.
Anyway. Also, my research showed that it was called Villa St. Vincent when it was shut down in 1971. This is when it was the nuns' nursing home.
Nun, yeah.
And they had to move all of the people who lived there, 40-some people, and over 40 people lost their jobs. Oh. And there are articles in the newspaper about how the staff were super upset about being closed down because they said that the new rules were outlandish and they were expecting things that, like measuring how far apart the beds were. And we're saying that, the people didn't really care about the people living there. They only cared about their rules and stuff. Mm-hmm.
Which I believe. Bureaucracy.
Yes. And there was something about how they had to dispose of all the medications. They couldn't even, if they had medications that were for, Uncle Joe.
Yeah.
Uncle Joe couldn't take those medications to his new place. They had to destroy it all. So thousands of dollars worth of medications they had to throw down the toilet, which no, you're not supposed to do that. No, that contaminates the water.
Oh my God. Can you, all those people and all that medication?
Yeah.
That's expensive.
And that's just the tip of the iceberg. I didn't read all the stories, but that was the things that people complained about the most. So Amy says, as she's walking around, she says that there had been 4 events here that made things with the dead even worse.
I bet one of them was a Ouija board.
Uh-huh. And there was a quote where she's walking around. She walks into a room and she kind of shakes her head, turns around and walks out. And what she's saying is, she goes, "Oh my God, that's too much. Beep." And I actually think she's talking about all the shit all over the house.
Yeah.
It's a mess. There's wood piled up and just junk thrown in rooms. And I think she probably it looked to me like she walked in there and then was like, I can't. There's too much crap in here. Mm-hmm. She might have been talking about too much, activity.
Metaphysical stuff. Yeah.
But it looked to me like she just couldn't get around.
Yeah.
There's too much shit in there.
Well, when you have 42 rooms, you're going to use, that's just extra storage.
And I felt like some of that stuff might have been left there from before,
I'm sure it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure, maybe some of the spirits are attached to, and that's keeping them there.
Uh-huh.
That's the bedpost that Uncle Joe, that's the bedpost from the bed that Uncle Joe died in. And so he's attached to it.
Yep. Could be.
Poor Uncle Joe.
Yeah.
He led a good life.
So Steve finds out that a doctor, whose name was August Borchardt, ran a medical facility there.
There's a name.
So, and it's spelled Borchardt.
Oh.
Borchard, but he pronounces it Borchardt.
Yeah.
And so does the other person he talks to. He goes to speak to a genealogist.
Not a gynecologist.
Mm-mm. And I wrote, his name is Dave Miller, and he's not a gynecologist. So Dr. Borchardt became a doctor after being a teacher. His son had died at a young age, and that inspired him to become a doctor because they couldn't figure out why his son died. So this stuff all happened before the building was built, the son dying and all that. But he had a heart attack in 1931. He's the doctor that had this thing built. And so in 1931, they lost their funding and he had to stop building the hospital. And then in 1934, he died of a heart attack. His son, Melvin, who is also a doctor, inherited the building. He abandoned it for a while and then he finally sold it. So now we're back to Amy, who's talking about the clipboard guy, and she thinks he ran the place.
Do we know who this clipboard guy is?
I'm pretty sure it's a doctor.
Oh, okay.
It's Borkhardt.
Yep.
But she said he ran the place. He was a physician, and he had a heart attack.
She always says the words heart attack. So funny.
I know.
Maybe it was a heart attack.
He takes care of things and everybody, and he's trying to protect everyone from the darkness. And now I'm wondering if that's why, if he's the one that Amy met, that was when he was saying, go away, we don't want you here. Like he was trying to protect her, actually.
Oh.
I'm just guessing. I don't know for sure.
Yeah, could be.
So Steve, in his research, discovers that a 19-year-old kid was murdered in his car near the house. And he talks to this guy's descendant. Her name is Linda Windmuller.
There's another name.
So this is an interesting story. Her great aunt, Esther Barkholtz, not to be confused with Borkhardt. These names are all very similar. Esther Barkholtz. She is the woman in this, there's a love triangle between the 19-year-old kid that was murdered in his car, her, and her ex-husband. So she was considered a high stepper, which is a term for a loose woman in the 1920s.
The worst kind.
And she had a picture of her. She looked fun.
I'm sure she was a blast.
I'm sure. So on October 31st, 1930, the body of Henry Glock was found in the front seat of his car, his arms crossed over a bullet wound in his chest. So a bullet wound.
That sounds like he was posed.
Arms crossed. Oh, exactly.
Yep.
There was a pistol nearby, but it was out of his reach. The cops called it a suicide.
Sure.
And then, yeah, like your lady who strangled herself.
Yep.
And then Steve says,
well, Ray Charles could see it's not a suicide.
Steve, you have some good lines.
The coroner's inquiry noted the body was in an unnatural position to have shot himself. The doctor who examined him, Borkhardt, the guy that had the place built a year later.
Was he also the guy that was in the triangle?
No.
Okay, that was her husband.
Charles Barkholtz.
Oh, God.
Not to be confused with August Borkhardt.
Could they have gotten any more similar names?
I know. So the woman that Steve's talking to, this descendant, says that there are stories that the paper told about this love triangle between the victim, Henry, Esther, and this Charles, who is her ex-husband. She said that the ex was abusive and demanded that Esther take him back. So they all thought, the papers thought, that Charles killed Henry.
Sure.
But the story that the family tells is that Henry had just come into $500 on the day that he was murdered, so the family believes that he was killed for it. The case has never been solved.
Oh.
So, being a true crime fan, I looked up this story in mynewspapers.com.
Of course you did.
And Henry Glock had been shot at on July 18th, so about 2 weeks before he was murdered, while he was working on a farm. About a week later, he was discharged from his job at this farm. His boss testified that he had jokingly said that he'd have to hang himself if he didn't find some money, which makes me think that he owed money to someone.
Right.
So then I thought about the story about him coming into $500 on the day of his murder, and I wondered if maybe he was a gambler and he wanted debt, and maybe this person came to him to collect their money.
And he didn't have it?
Yeah. Or he did, and they took the money and killed him anyway. I don't know.
Yeah.
So then on August 6th, about a week after Henry is killed, a bullet is shot into Esther's car while she and her sister are driving.
What?
Yeah. I'm not sure what all this has to do with each other, but yeah. So the article says that Henry lived with Esther before she got married. The quote is, apparently, Miss Barkholtz, before her marriage, kept company with Glock.
Scandal.
But then another article said that he went to live with her when he was fired from the farm. And she had recently been divorced.
When was this again? What year was this?
This was 1930.
Oh, so yeah, very scandalous. Yeah.
So the inquest was delayed because they were looking for the ex-husband and couldn't find him. And I didn't see anything in the papers about them finding him or anything else about a trial or if there ever was one. I didn't see his name appear in the papers at all, even under the crazy different spellings that I saw so far. But I did find out that they were divorced in February of 1930 and they had 3 small children.
Sad.
She was 26 and
that's the way it was.
She already had 3 kids.
Yeah. That's the way it was.
I know.
That's all we did. That's all us women were good for, was breeding and cooking.
Yep.
And I'm not even good at cooking.
Yes, you are.
No.
Okay, so back to the show. So Amy sees 2 men struggling about money. She says one is like a teenager, like 17 or something. And she's hearing an older man saying to him, "You little piece of shit. I told you to do the right thing. And what did you do? You did the wrong thing."
Ooh.
And he's trying to make the kid eat rocks. Then she feels really sick.
Wow. Yeah.
So now the next part is she's going to have him sketch the clipboard guy and the devil in the darkness, the goat thing.
I don't want to see it.
Yeah, you do.
So
I had noticed by now that they had never talked to the husband, and he's not at the reveal.
Jason. Fucking Jason.
So Amy says she tells the clients that she was freaking out when she got there because there are just too many dead people. And she talks about the woman who was screaming and yelling. And then she saw drugs and needles. And then Steve gives her the history of the building and shows her the list of the 115 people who died on the property.
Oh, my God.
And she talks about being on the 3rd floor and meeting the clipboard guy. And she said this is his space. And she doesn't belong here. And he was the one that was trying to push her back. So she says he makes people feel sick, dizzy, nauseous, etc. Charlotte explains how she feels ill. She feels all that stuff, and she saw the man up there. Steve asks Amy, who was this when he was alive? And she says, well, he did have this clipboard, and he was in charge, and he seemed educated, and he took care of everything. And Steve tells her about August Borchardt. And Steve shows the photo and asks Amy if this is who she saw. And she kind of goes, maybe.
Yeah.
And then they pull out Amy's sketch. And I'm going to text it to you. So this is the picture and the sketch next to it.
Ooh. The same. Look at that nose. Look at the nose.
The nose is almost identical. The hair, it's a little hard to tell because in the photograph, it's all blackened because it's a black background. And he's wearing glasses. They're different kind of glasses, but the eyes look the same. The nose looks the same.
The nose, the mouth.
Jaw.
Yep. That nose, that spot. And the only reason I say that is because it's a very unique looking nose.
Yeah.
Like, it's very, like, rounded. Yeah. That's.
With those, rounded at the tip and then the big nostrils. Yep. Steve pulls the sketch out of the envelope and he goes,
"You're not sure? Are you kidding me?"
But the clients say, "Oh yeah, we've seen that guy." When they see the sketch, they're like, "Yep, that's the guy we've seen." So Amy talks about going to the basement and being put in the darkness. There are dead people from all over the world, she says. The clipboard guy calls this hell. Well, she explains that she was raised Catholic, so she sees it as purgatory.
Yeah.
The doctor/clipboard guy tells her that it was these events that brought them all here. These things that happened that were not done with good intentions. Charlotte mentions that her son was playing with the Ouija and there was a big boom while he was doing this. And everybody scattered, and he called his mother crying. So Steve tells Amy about the haunted house tours. And of course, she's aghast.
Pissed. Yeah.
And Amy's concern is all these dead people are just wandering around and they can latch onto the living. It's just like how she kind of explained it before. When they do, they mesh with them. The living person takes on the emotions of the dead. So if the dead person was suicidal, the living person could become so too.
Mm-hmm.
And then Steve explains that the husband, Jason, wanted nothing to do with this investigation. And Amy seems really surprised by this.
And I wanted to talk to him, obviously, but he wanted nothing to do with this investigation.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
So the dead are being controlled by this presence that Amy has called the darkness. And now I'm going to send you that picture. Be ready. Because this one, yikes. Right? It's okay. So it's like it's like a goat or like a ram standing up on his back feet, his goat feet, and he's carrying a bag. And there's stuff coming out of the bag that looks like forked tongues.
Oh, I was going to say it looks almost, I see that. Yeah.
Well, I don't know what it is. I mean, I don't know what it's supposed to look like. And the client says, "What is that?" when she points to the bag. And Amy says, "Those are souls. They're souls that have gone to hell, and he keeps them with him in that bag, carries them around with him." So, and there's a little boy in that picture. I don't know who that is, that she doesn't really reference that.
What's the name of the satanic... It's a goat sculpture, and I can't think of the name of what it is.
Oh, really?
Not Beelzebub. It's in Sabrina, The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. And it's like they're like the statue or like the symbol of Satanism. I have to Google it now.
I know, I was going to try and do that too. Baphomet?
Yes. That's what it looks like to me. That's what it reminds me of.
Oh, yep.
Oof.
With the curly horns. Yep.
And the goat feet and the goat face. Yep.
It does look like that. You're
God.
Right. Nailed it.
That's terrifying. I don't want to nail that.
I know.
I know. No.
Yeah. So this, and I'll pop this quote in of Amy. She says,
I want to make this perfectly clear. You have a very serious situation here. You have young children who are directly in harm's way. These things could kill your kids.
Steve wraps it up by saying, Charlotte, you said you feel like you live in hell. Turns out you were right. Amy says the situation is beyond mere mortal intervention. She says, quote, "There's nothing that can be done about it. Right now, the safest option is to move as fast as you can." And I would have been like, zoom.
I would have been like, okay, bye.
I don't need any of my shit. I'm just out of here.
Yep. Oh my God.
Yeah. So, but then Charlotte says, well, she has nowhere else to go. She doesn't think she can find a house big enough. Lady, you don't need 80 million square feet for your 6 children that live at home.
Your kids can share rooms.
Yes.
Just throwing that out there.
Yeah. So Amy tells her that after they leave, not if you leave, when you leave, you need to have an exorcism done in a place of worship for Jason. And Charlotte says, well, what happens if he won't do it? He probably won't do it. And Amy says, well, then you're going to have to leave him. Which I was really surprised that she went that far. I mean, good for her.
I mean, she's got to be concerned for their safety then.
Yeah. I mean, he could do some. What if he's been taken over by something that's, a murderous dead person? Then,
oh my God.
Yeah. So Steve asks her if she's going to move out. She says yes. She has no choice. She cares about her family more than the property. Okay. So the update. This is a video update.
Oh.
It's Charlotte and her daughter Haley, the one who was in the reveal with her. And she says, since you've been gone, we've been looking for a place, but haven't found anything large enough for our family yet. Hopefully in the near future. And I screamed at the TV, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
And I don't know how long the update was after. I think it was like 2 months. I didn't write it down. Shame on me. I would have left within 24 hours, and she's still there months later.
Oh, my God.
And
oh, my God.
if she's the one that bought the house in 2012, she still owns it because it hasn't sold since then. Not that she could have walked away. She could have moved away, but it hasn't sold. So, yeah. It didn't say the activity continues, but certainly it must have, right?
And you said that was in New London?
New London, yep.
New London.
New London,
yeah.
Wisconsin.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of The Activity Continues. We hope you'll join us next week when we pick apart 2 more episodes. If you have a favorite episode you want us to cover, please let us know. You can DM us at any of our socials or email at theactivitycontinues@gmail.com.
Thanks for listening, everybody, and join us next time when
The Activity Continues.
The Activity Continues podcast is produced by me, Amy, at Collected Sounds Media, and is a part of the independent Collected Sounds podcast network.
Nailed it.